it's time for that wonderful, wonderful Wednesday afternoon gathering, and that is for the Helping Seniors of Brevard. I'm Jim Votro, sitting in right now for John Harper, who is on his way back from the gas pump, I believe, at this point. Right now, we have our master of ceremonies, our interviewer persona of Kerry Fink, and he is also the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. I believe your special guest today is Dr. Lee Sheldon. Kerry?
You have covered it and covered it with excellence. Thanks, Jim Votro. It's good to be here on the radio every Wednesday, lunchtime, 12 noon to 1 p.m., right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And if you're listening online at WEJF.net, we appreciate you, and we thank you, too, if you're tuning in as a podcast as we go and grow. We keep learning that people are finding us on the podcast, and they love it because they can go to Apple iTunes, they can go to Spotify. Wherever you get a podcast, you'll find Helping Seniors Radio. It's actually moving into the ranks as one of the top 2025 senior-focused programs on these services. And what we're finding is people hear a topic or they read about a topic in social media, and then they come and hunt down the program, or maybe they want to share it with their friend who might benefit from what we're going to talk about today. So with that, we have a fun show called The Joy of Seeing Healing, and I'd like to officially welcome longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization, a person who has done so much in this community and also kind of led the way on a lot of this. You know, his background is being a periodontist, and but he is really invested into people's health. And we've talked so many times on the radio, Dr. Lee Sheldon, about the connection between your mouth and your overall health. How are you today, sir?
Good, Kerry. And how are you today?
Excellent. This is going to be a fun show to talk through.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, I was talking with, we just built a house, a beautiful house with Kyle Militano. He did a beautiful job for us. And he and I were talking about using kimchi in order to be able to help with other digestive ills and things like that. And so, yeah, we get beyond the mouth. Why not? I mean, we've got so many things that we can do for ourselves that allow the body to heal, rather than what you might think of as that the surgeon or the doctor controls healing. The answer is the doctor assists the body to heal. The body is capable of healing all by itself. And of course, that's been my bent, even though we have always been a very large, and we're told by our sales rep for dental implants, he said, we've got the largest dental implant practice in the county. But we're talking about, what can we do to avoid dental implants, despite the fact that we have the largest dental implant practice in the county. And so with that, in my older years, we are talking about what can the body do by itself for assisting. And just like you, who've just come back from a nice vacation, we were on a vacation. And on our vacation, I decided that it was time for me to make sure that everybody knows that the body can heal. And so I'm going to be back on the national lecture circuit very shortly to talk about what we're talking about today. And for those listeners who are interested, go to LeeSheldonLectures.com, and you can see some stuff which is geared towards you as well as the dental professionals. And that's what we're using right now in order to be able to educate people, or at least get people to the point where they say, yeah, okay, it's a different point. Let's get him on the lecture. So that's what we're doing right now. So LeeSheldonLectures.com will give you some basic material about what we're talking about today.
Well, I can't wait for us to get into that. And speaking of the lecture circuit, you are actually on the lecture circuit tomorrow with a good friend of yours, Dr. Chris Naglieri, because you're doing a talk for us in our senior education series that's happening at, we call it Joe's Senior Resource Center, right there, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard, second floor, the Omni Healthcare Professional Tower. We always tell people, like, if you know where Holmes Regional is, we're just a couple of roads behind that on the medical campus downtown Melbourne. And normally it's every fourth Thursday, but on account of the holidays in November and December, we move our fourth Thursday and make it the second Thursday education series. So that is, we are talking about literally tomorrow, Thursday, November 13th. You guys are going to be there at 11 a.m. to speak on Not So Fast on Implants, evidence-based ways to save teeth, which is an interesting postscript to what you were just saying, knowing that you guys are the number one implant providers in Brevard County.
Yeah, and Dr. Naglieri is very excited about this. It's going to be the first time that he and I have lectured together. He's put together a beautiful PowerPoint, and it's going to demonstrate exactly what we're talking about today, Kerry. The fact that if we do the right things, if we disinfect the teeth correctly, the body can heal. And he's going to provide some great demonstrations as to what that means to you as the patient, and yes, dental implants are great, but natural teeth are better. So we are going to talk about what we can do and some of the myths that are there and some of the real evidence there is that healing can occur, and it can occur for a long, long time. So he'll have some evidence. I'll have some evidence. He's the young guy. I may not be the younger guy. and together, it's different because he and I are a generation apart. We believe in the same things. And the fact is that I've been working with Dr. Naglieri since he's been here. He's only been here a couple of years, but I've been able to see the healing that he produces. And it's just superb. So for those who are interested in what can happen dentally and what you can do, and maybe even what are the questions you can ask of your dentist when you're told a tooth needs to be extracted, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to avoid tooth extractions if at all possible. This will give you some insight so that you have some tools to talk with your dentist about what can be done and be able to talk from a knowledge basis. So it's only 45 minutes. It's going to be 5-minute talk, and with 15 minutes for questions. And we'll cover enough that you will have some basic tools where you can then look at your own health, dental health, and decide what you might be able to do.
I'm so looking forward to this. And again, if you're new to this, we are talking about literally tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 12 noon. It's part of our Helping Seniors Education series we do at the Joe's Senior Resource Center, Brevard. Again, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. I'm going to give you a number to ask you if you'll RSVP. The reason we want to do that is you're welcome to join us actually at 10 a.m. because what we do on this fourth Thursday series is we do a knowledge college portion, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then we do what we call the wellness series because we want to have you be as healthy and well as you possibly can so you can enjoy everything in your golden years. So that is 11 to 12. And this week, tomorrow, you're going to be hearing from Dr. Lee Sheldon and Dr. Chris Naglieri. So this is going to be a great talk. And again, why we ask you to RSVP, you don't have to, but what we want to do is we plan some snacks and there's door prizes and there's other fun things that are going on in addition to good education. We have always a bunch of great resources who join us from time to time. So they'll have information tables and things like that as well. And Karen Wernland, who organizes our center, does a really great job of putting together a fun morning out. Everybody who comes out always enjoys it, and they always go home much better for the experience because then I've got more things in their arsenal to do, as Joe Steckler always encouraged us to do, which is make our own aging plan, which we call getting your ducks in a row. So again, that is tomorrow. Dr. Sheldon, Dr. Naglieri are speaking at 11 a.m. So we hopefully will see you there. And that phone number to RSVP is 321-473-7770. And by the way, tomorrow's Knowledge College is going to be an interesting one too. That's the 10 a.m. hour that precedes the Dr. Sheldon and Dr. Naglieri's talk at 11. And tomorrow in the 10 o'clock hour in the Knowledge College, we have Jackie Erickson, who's a vice president and branch manager of PNC Bank. And she's going to be sharing on senior safe banking practices, because we're all too aware of scams that are out there. And we also know that most often our banks want us to try to do things with our smartphones and things like that. So we want to know how to do all of that safely and correctly without getting into trouble. So that's 10 a.m. hour and 11 a.m. hour. We are going to be talking about not so fast on implants from the number one provider of implants in Brevard County, Dr. Lee Sheldon. So there you have it. One more thing before we dive into the show. If you're out and about in your car right now and you're anywhere near the Melbourne Auditorium, I want to encourage you to pop by, because it goes on till 1 o'clock. Our good friend Nina Varuso, who is director of Platinum Events Productions. She does all these great senior expos. And right now, going on until 1 p.m. today, is the Mega Senior Expo at the Melbourne Auditorium. And if you head out there, you will see our very own Director of Development, Nancy Deerdorf. She is on site, and we'll have your fresh copy of Senior Scene magazine available for you for free, and also can kind of give you a little schedule of upcoming activities and things that are going on, including those programs we just talked about that are coming up literally tomorrow, Thursday, November 13th. So with that, Dr. Lee Sheldon, the joy of seeing healing. And I wanted to preface this because I was thinking about, I remember my mom, when I would take her to the doctor, and Tammy's mom, and we would take them both to the doctors because we were sort of caregivers for our moms back in the day. And every time we would go to the doctor, particularly one of the mamas would say to the doctor, well, here's my complaint. I need this, and I need this. And I remember Dr. Garcia looking at her and saying, you just want me to write another prescription, don't you? And so that kind of like didn't get a real answer, but it was kind of a pointing out the problem is that a lot of times we look for that magic pill. And what I think, Dr. Sheldon, what we're going to try to tackle today is the fact is, isn't it much better if we can tap into what God, or I believe God created in us as ways to sort of, the body is already capable of this if we will give it the right tools to help it, right?
That's exactly right. And you're right. We have grown up into a pill society, and that's changing right now. That's going to change. Yeah. But it takes a while when we have these ingrained beliefs, and these ingrained beliefs were put into us by people who will benefit from those beliefs, saying that pills will take care of the problem. And so, yeah, we can talk about what pharmaceutical influence has done to us in the United States and the lack of health that's occurred as a result. We can go that road, and you and I have talked about that. Talked about that a lot. The fact is that when we were younger, Kerry, our parents were calling these things patent medicines. Patent medicines. What does a patent medicine mean? It means that it doesn't exist in the human body, so therefore you can patent it. And it's a false thing that goes into the body in order to be able to control something, or usually to stop something. And what we're saying is, if we assist the body to do something rather than make the body stop something, for many people, they can heal themselves, and we're going to talk about that with regard to dental health. But extrapolate what we're saying to what to overall health as well. We're talking about a lot of things in the body now, where if we do the right things for ourselves, the body will heal. We're just going to give you an example. Dr. Naglieri, by the way, is going to talk about it from a root canal perspective. I'm going to talk about it from a periodontal perspective. The goal here is to take away the feeling or the assumption that a tooth is hopeless. Okay, so, it isn't uncommon for a dentist to say, hey, that's a hopeless tooth, we've got to extract it. And the answer is not so fast. It's only hopeless when you've decided to extract the tooth. And then, yeah, you're right, it's hopeless because it's no longer in your mouth. The body can heal. The tooth can heal. There are ways to make that heal or to assist that in healing. And that's going to be the subject of what we're talking about tomorrow. And it's the subject of today's show as well.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, again, like I said, I'm almost jumping to the end of the story before we begin at the beginning because, I know we have done so many radio shows, TV shows. You've written articles about it. By the way, if you're new to this, you can find all of the evidence of these programs that are going to be beneficial on that at helpingseniors@brevard.org. That is our website. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Helping Seniors of Brevard. You can follow us on Facebook because we always try to put all this information right there because people love to come back and find it. And Dr. Sheldon, you and I have done shows because you are often called, you get involved in international research projects and things like that. I remember in particular, we did a show where you were involved in following up on some studies that were being done about mouth health and heart health. And so clearly there is a link between everything that's going on in our bodies, but I wanted to kind of ask you, how did you get started on the whole idea of getting interested in figuring out what is the body's ability to heal?
Well, it came from a lecture that I took, and it was in 1987 in Phoenix, Arizona, where I met with Dr. Perry Ratcliffe. I heard him lecture once, and so I brought my hygienist at that time, Barbara, and Rebecca really established a non-surgical program. Rebecca was the one who carried it on. You and I have talked about Rebecca for a long time, but in this case, Rebecca had heard this lecture, and now Barbara and I went to the office, and what we found was a dedicated periodontist he had been the president of the American Academy of Periodontology, who was using traditional dental supplies in order to retract the gums so that his hygienist could do a better job in cleaning the root surface. And what he did then was to ask the hygienist to use, it's called a retraction cord. It's something that you use when you're doing crowns in order to pull the gum tissue back from the tooth. And he used retraction cords along with some basic chemicals, citric acid and then tetracycline, which is an antibiotic, in order to retract the gums so that his hygienist could do a better job in cleaning the roots. And his claim was that as a result of doing that, he was able to avoid periodontal surgery whatsoever. Now, this is 1987. At the time, we were doing periodontal surgery in order to be able to take care of problems, and people are still doing periodontal surgery today. We don't, and we haven't done periodontal surgery for chronic periodontal disease very often for the past 25 years. So understand this has been long-term in our office. And so what we did was see both his immediate results, or what the hygienist was doing, as well as the long-term results, seeing the patients who were coming back for the regular cleanings and just seeing how they were doing. And they did really well. So I said, when we came back, this was at a time when periodontal surgery was in, I declared at a Christmas party, and I think we've talked about it here, I declared at the Christmas party, for the next, it ended up being 8 months, we're going to do nothing but non-surgical treatment. And Rebecca said, and you'll hear it in another broadcast, we'll say it today, Rebecca said, our next Christmas party will be at McDonald's. So, so with that, we did that. And it allowed me, for the first time in my career, and I'd only been a periodontist for 7 years at that point, it allowed me the luxury of seeing how a patient healed without my sticking a knife in there. You know what, Kerry? The deal that I made with my patients was, I'm going to do all your treatment non-surgically. If you need surgery, I'll do it at no charge. That's what we did. And in 8 months, there were 4 small surgical procedures that I needed to do. Everything else was taken care of non-surgically. This was the beginning of the change in my own thought process on what we need to do for periodontal treatment. Understand, I was an outlier, but so was Perry. So Perry was first. I wasn't second. There were others who duplicated what Perry did. But essentially, it was the beginning of, if we do the right things, the body can figure out what to do. And over our career, we then extended that to better technology in order to be able to allow hygienists to do a better job, so that all periodontal disease, literally all periodontal disease, became a non-surgical event, not a surgical event.
Wow. Yeah, well, and that kind of goes back to your article that's going to be coming out in the December issue of Senior Scene magazine, where we publish our Helping Seniors News Center section, is actually on this same topic. And the subtitle is really kind of intriguing. He says it's all about the human touch, not just the gadgets. And, again, that's kind of interesting coming from somebody who just literally opened up a state-of-the-art medical facility for dental practice. I mean, you just had the grand opening. We had the privilege of being out there and seeing just everything. You have every state-of-the-art toy. Well, maybe not toy that's not the right word, but you know what I'm saying. You have like everything in there to diagnose and treat and make sure patients are well taken care of. But yet you're talking about something that says the procedure was done, but the work was not. What does that mean?
And by the way, if you go to, you'll see this. And so for those who are listening, I'll say it again, LeeSheldonLectures.com, and click on the video. And in 6 minutes, you'll see a summary of what we're talking about, including what non-surgical periodontal treatment is all about. And it goes to the statement that I'm getting a deep cleaning. Okay. And how many times do you hear, I need a deep cleaning? Yet what we know is that a hygienist is only able to get 3.73 millimeters below the gum line predictably. So if you're probing a 5 millimeter pocket, the bottom 1.25 millimeters essentially aren't being cleaned. And that means that, well, I did the deep cleaning, but the root surfaces are not really clean. That's what that essentially means.
Wow.
And so, it takes training, it takes talent, and it takes a device called an endoscope, and we use endoscopes for everything in medicine. Well, there is an endoscope that's the size of a periodontal probe that goes below the gum line, so the hygienist can see the root surface, see the calculus, which is the hard bacteria that's stuck to the root, and get that out. That is the key to getting things clean. You've got to be able to see it. You can't do it by feel. And unfortunately, and I'm going to change this. This is the rest of my life project. I'm going to change this so that hygienists are buying endoscopes, or dentists are buying endoscopes for the hygienists, and the hygienists are going to learn how to use the endoscope, so we can stop this continual. I need a deep cleaning. Need a deep cleaning. Need a deep cleaning. The deep cleaning isn't being done because the hygienist can't see it. We're going to make sure the hygienist can see the root surface, get the root surface clean, and you need one deep cleaning in your entire life done correctly, and the area heals up.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's, we talk about a lot of times when you talk about the term senior, a lot of times it's used maybe not in the right way in society, but really senior in a career kind of path. You're the senior vice president, you're the senior something in charge of whatever, means that you really have a lot of experience. And it's interesting to hear because you have done this. You've really been a pioneer. We talked about the fact that your practice opened up, I believe it was 1980. So, and we have joked a lot that maybe you're even the father of dental implants in Brevard County, or grandfather, or whatever you want to call it. But you have been involved in this, and so your experience now is really giving back to practices that are trying to learn how to do the right things. And it seems like you're really kind of almost committed to helping these practices do the right thing, so that it's making a difference for those of us in the public who come see you. How does we're talking about the endoscope and all that, but there's traditional deep cleaning, which is, I guess, where they go below the gums, and there's something called the laser treatment. What's that all about?
Yeah, and the laser treatment, essentially what they're doing is with a laser, they are in some ways zapping the inner lining of the gum tissue, which isn't a bad procedure to do. I have nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with laser treatment. Essentially what they're doing is taking inflamed tissue, and they're trying to get that inflamed tissue to convert to a non-inflamed tissue so that it heals. And early healing actually is quite good with the laser treatment. What people are figuring out with lasers right now is that if you do laser treatment but the root surface is still dirty, eventually it's going to break down again. And so you see a number of people who are using laser treatment in order to be able to control periodontal disease, and they are using the endoscope as well, so that when you're using the laser treated gum tissue is now healing against a clean root rather than a dirty root. And you can do that with the periodontal endoscope.
Hey, I think they're playing our music for the mid-show break, so we're going to continue the conversation with Dr. Lee Sheldon right after this. Stay with us.
And that music indicates we're ready to get back to the second half of our program for this Wednesday. Let's reintroduce the host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here's Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Hey, thank you, John Harper. Always good to spend the lunchtime hour together on every Wednesday right here on 90.3 FM WEJF, and those listening online at WEJF.net. And if you're catching this as a podcast, we appreciate you being here with us. We're having a great conversation with our longtime friend of Helping Seniors and special guest and noted periodontist who is actually a national, international lecturer on all things, not only actually about medical as it relates to periodontics and all of that and mouth health, but also actually has an organization for many years where he is helping other practices improve their practices. We're talking about Dr. Lee Sheldon. How are you?
All right, Kerry, good to be with you as always. And, this is, I got to tell you, for those who weren't on for the first half of the show, it's amazing what happens. You just came back from vacation. I came back from vacation. It's amazing what happens when you go on vacation. It isn't just escaping things, but things just allow things to happen because you're not in your present environment. And I think that was part of this entire essay that I wrote. I made a decision. Before I left, I said, good, I've been on the lecture circuit. I've done my writing. Good. Let somebody else do it. And as a result of the vacation, I wrote a 7,500 word essay. I got a website, a small website, LeeSheldonLectures.com. And I said, no, we've done some things that most people aren't doing, and I know how to talk, and I know how to communicate, and it's time that we make sure that this is done the way we've been able to do it. And that's what I'm doing. So I am speaking where we are speaking tomorrow at 11 a.m. Dr. Chris Neglieri is going to talk about technology and root canals that makes root canals. It's got to be talent, too, by the way, not just technology, that makes root canals totally predictable. We're going to talk about periodontal health and what we can do in order to be able to reverse periodontal disease, which we could do. And then I'll be speaking to the American Academy of Oral and Systemic Health, a national organization. We'll be doing that online in December. And then so far, I'm speaking to the Oregon Dental Association. That's in April. But we're going to make sure we're going to more meetings than that and making sure that this message gets out there because we've been so successful at it. We've got Morgan and Jessica who are doing a tremendous job in our office, and soon Selena is going to be trained in using this. And of course, Rebecca was the one who started all this, and for 37 years got our patients healed. And you and I have talked about the story. I was originally doing periodontal surgery. Rebecca learned how to do this. She said, I'm going to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing until I get it done right. And then all of a sudden, Rebecca was getting all the periodontal disease under control, and I had nothing to do. And because I had nothing to do, I had to learn how to do bone grafts and dental implants. And that's the story. And so why did we become a dental implant practice? Because Rebecca was taking care of all the periodontal disease.
I love it. So again, folks, what Dr. Sheldon is talking about is we're talking about tomorrow, November 13th, to join us at 11 a.m. at Joe's Senior Resource Center. That's our home for helping seniors, and we have all kinds of stuff that happens there. The helpline is headquartered there. We have a podcast studio there. We have lots of great resources, partner businesses that are in there with us. But normally it's every fourth Thursday, but on account of Thanksgiving, kind of being the fourth Thursday of this month, we actually moved that to tomorrow, November 13th, and we do our senior education series, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. At 10 a.m., we have Jackie Erickson, who's a vice president branch manager with PNC bank, and she's going to talk about banking safely as a senior. And then at 11 a.m. is Dr. Lee Sheldon and Dr. Chris Naglieri, who are going to come and talk to us about Not So Fast with Implants. And so it's free. We have it's not only it's great information. You're going to go home much better aware of some things that are going to be helpful to your own personal health and well-being. Just through these sessions. That's always our objective. When we put these together, we want to give you something of real value that's going to make a difference for you. And so we're always trying to get the best of the best. And we're so excited to have Dr. Sheldon and Dr. Naglieri join us for the wellness series portion, 11 to 12. But we also have a lot of fun. There's some snacks, there's door prizes, and then we have a lot of resources. You can visit tables, get a lot of information, and maybe even a few take-home pens and things like that, because they usually bring a lot of stuff out. So it's a fun morning out. We ask if you can RSVP just so we know how to plan the snacks. It's 321-473-7770. I'm going to say that number again because that is also the Helping Seniors info line, and it's a great number that you should have available and handy for you in case you do need a question or answered or some help, or somebody needs help. That's why we exist as a Florida nonprofit, is to serve our seniors and their families here in Brevard County. And again, that number, 321-473-7770. And Dr. Lee Sheldon, during the break, I took a moment to go to LeeSheldonLectures.com because I wanted to see what the site looks like. And I love the title, The Mouth Wants to Heal. In fact, you have this really big, and with pictures and everything, document that I guess is kind of there, as well as a patient education video. There's a lot of resources linked to your YouTube channel and this part of what you do, and it really looks impressive. So it's LeeSheldonLectures.com. Really neat that you are giving back with the benefit of your experience now and helping others with all of this.
And I'm so proud of what the practice has become. It's no longer my practice. The kids own the practice. They let me work there. But the traditions that we've established are just growing and growing and growing. Morgan, who is now taking over for Rebecca, and Morgan's been there for several years now. But can you imagine Morgan, who's an experienced hygienist, coming in and having to replace a legend. And, you can sink or swim in that position. And boy, Morgan has taken it to the next level. Some of the things that we're doing now are things that weren't available when Rebecca was there. And so it's making things even better for our patients, meaning much more comfortable and faster. Not that this is an uncomfortable procedure at all. This is a non-surgical procedure, but we've taken it to the next level. And I've been fortunate because I've been associated with a research group, Dr. Steve Harrell, Dr. Charles Cobb, Dr. John Sotosanti, and Dr. Michael Rethman, and all of us around the same age, all of us with the same goal of getting periodontal treatment to be predictable and to keep teeth in the mouth rather than take them out. And so we've had the opportunity of publishing together. Somebody sent me a photograph of a lecture that was being given somewhere out west on Saturday, and sent me a photograph, and there was a slide of our article being referred to by in somebody else giving a lecture. So we hope we're making some inroads. It sounds like we are. The old Gandhi thing is, first they ignore you. We're past the first they ignore you stage. So we're going to push this line and make sure that the patients are well treated. And by the way, this makes treatment much more predictable, and by the way, a lot less expensive for patients as well. When the hygienist can do the job instead of the dentist, it's hygienist fees, not dentist fees. And so we can get a lot of teeth saved, we can get a lot of people healthy, and it can be done under the hygienist banner, not under the dentist or the periodontist banner, and that's going to be good for everybody.
No, it's really good. And, kind of, again, the subtitle of LeeSheldonLectures.com is The Mouth Wants to Heal. And I want to encourage you, if you're listening, to visit that site and maybe take a look at this really good, I would call it a report, The Mouth Wants to Heal, because it is the topic of what we're talking about today, the joy of seeing healing. It's actually going to be the title of your article that comes out in the December edition of Senior Scene magazine, where we have our Helping Seniors news in the center. But, again, we're talking about the body's ability to heal, Dr. Sheldon. And I guess the question is, which I've heard you talk about before in various programs. And I remember actually years ago, you and Joe Steckler talking about this very topic, because Joe was talking about some dental restoration work that you were helping him with at the time, and he was always amazed that I guess he had to have some jaw work done or something that was going to be necessary so he could have the proper implant placed that he needed or something along those lines. And I remember him being kind of amazed that bone could actually grow back in his mouth when you set it up to make all that happen. Am I saying that the right way?
You are saying that. Now, that was a surgical procedure, and I begin this article saying that I was very proud of my ability to do periodontal surgery. I was, and dental implant surgery. Certainly, that's a skill that you acquire, and I had some great teachers along the way to get me to the point where I could do a pretty good job. Yeah, in Joe's case, and I'm sure Joe would be okay with this, because Joe would talk about it.
He talked about it.
Well, we put the implant in, and I wanted to grow bone around the dental implant. And poor Joe, he grew more bone than I was anticipating. What a great problem to have. You're hoping bone will come back. You're doing all the things to do it, and he grew a millimeter or two more bone than I anticipated. And so then we had to take care of it, which is an easy problem to take care of in order to be able to support the dental implant. So, yeah, I mean, surgery has its place. My difficulty only is the too many teeth are being extracted. When we can save them, we can save them for a lifetime. But yeah, when you get a talented patient and a talented surgeon together, you never can tell what's going to happen. And sure enough, yeah, Joe grew too much bone, and he had those teeth forever. So good for Joe.
Yeah, well, you've talked about this so often and I remember I've made this comment before, that I think as kids growing up, we were always taught to brush our teeth, and the goal of going to the dentist was to come home with a clean report card. Wow, I didn't have any cavities, or that was always what was I guess ingrained in us growing up, and that nobody spent enough time, I think now looking back, talking to us about the importance of overall mouth health. I mean, I don't think the gums were really even much talked about then. And then you realize later in life how important gum health really is overall. And so I remember early on when Joe first introduced us, and you were talking about this thing called the perioscope, and I'd never ever heard of such an animal. How come that's not been more prolific, I guess might be the word. It seems like something is so helpful, and yet maybe most of us don't even know what that is, or have never seen that.
It's true. It takes discipline, and it takes a learning curve to be able to use the endoscope correctly. And if you take a look at that video on LeeSheldonLectures.com, you'll see Morgan training Jessica on how to use it, and you'll see what occurs visually in that video. When Rebecca and I first did this, and of course, at that time, the technology was not what it was today. We were seeing different colors of shadows. We weren't seeing the tooth correctly, and Rebecca had to work with that. But I remember Rebecca would come back to me, and she'd say, I can see it, but now I got to figure out how to get it out. I need more time. And those are tough moments when a hygienist comes back to her boss and says, I need more time. Can you help me? And the answer is take all the time you need. The purpose of this is to get this done right. And Rebecca developed the hand-eye coordination and the instrumentation to do it. But not everybody can. This is, we've said it on the air before, and I do say it in practice a lot. Dentistry, in fact, anything, I don't care what part of life we're talking about, this is a talent-oriented profession. And some people have some talent in some areas, some people have talent in other areas. And if it becomes too difficult and it becomes frustrating, well, you give up. And that's a certain individual. And then there's a certain individual who says, I'm going to plug away at it and plug away at it and plug away at it until I get it right. Now, I'm fortunate in our practice that I have a lot of people. And I'm talking about employees, and they're not my employees, but they were at one time, many of them were, who were willing to plug away and plug away and plug away until they got it right. That's what Dr. Furtado does. That's what Dr. Matt Sheldon does. That's what Dr. Quello does, our new dentist. That's what she's been doing for many, many years. They plug away and they plug away and they plug away and get it right. They're not looking at the bottom line first. And that's what's happening with corporate greed all over the place, as you know. They're not looking at that. They're looking at the result. And when you get the result, the money will come because people will say, this is the practice I want to go to because I have my best interests at heart. That's why I'm so proud. And that's why it's very comfortable for me to work in the practice, even though I don't do the work anymore and I haven't done the work for years. But I can look at and I talk with the patient and I can say, listen, you have a choice of this or this or this. This is the benefit you'll get. And the patient can decide on what treatment plan they want, whether it's an expensive treatment plan or a less expensive treatment plan, and know on the other end that the work will be done correctly. And it's great for me. I haven't practiced dentistry seriously for over 10 years. But I can develop the plans with the patient and know that it's going to work out correctly. And when there are questions or we need to talk it out, the doctors and I meet every Tuesday at 4 p.m. so that we go over patients and we can talk about the pluses and minuses and how would you do this and that type of thing. And these days, the tables are turned. At one time, they were asking me, how would you do this? Now I'm asking them, how would you do this? So that I'm better informed as to what they're doing today. It's so neat. So, Tuesday at 4 p.m. is one of my favorite times of the week.
Well, no, it's so important. And, because you have often emphasized thoroughness over technology. And, I think it's important. It's like you can read the data that comes back or something. But if you're not careful, I think as you were explaining with the periscope, you see the data, but you have to be thorough if you're going to make that data pay off for the patient,
It's true. The root surface has to be clean. Now, Rebecca was doing it for 25 years without the benefit of a chemical that's been around for a long time. We talked about this once called EDTA, and I don't remember what the EDTA stands for, except the A stands for acid. And this is something that's been used in dentistry for many, many years. Dr. Daglieri has been using it in order to be able to assist him doing root canals. And what we found was that EDTA, this chemical, used only for 1 minute. And this came from the research group that I'm proud to be associated with, even though I'm not a researcher. Maybe I'm the mouthpiece of the group. I don't know. But as a result, the EDTA has made the instrumentation, the ability for our hygienists to get in there and clean it that much easier. And if it's easier for them, then it's easier on the patient as well. So we're using the EDTA to soften the calculus in order to be able to make it easier to remove. And then once we remove the calculus as well as we possibly can using the endoscope, if we were to look at that root surface microscopically, it would still have calculus on it. Calculus embeds itself into the root surface. And so the final part of this is to use EDTA on this root surface, which looks clean, but microscopically it would still have some micro islands of calculus, and the EDTA will finish the job and just makes the healing that much better. And that's good for the patient. It's good for us, and good for Dr. Cobb and Dr. Carroll, who did that original research to allow us to be able to apply it in our practice. I'm so, there's a lot of fortunate things that have occurred to me in dentistry, and later in my career to be a part of that group and be able to see the cutting edge stuff that's done that we can apply directly to our practices is just making a tremendous difference for our patients.
Yeah. Well, in this article, The Joy of Seeing Healing, that's coming out in the December issue of Senior Scene magazine, there is you talk a lot about gum disease and things like that, and why it's so important to get after that. But what are the early warning signs that we should be looking for? Let's kind of like preview that just a bit.
I think if we're looking at bad breath, that's one thing. If we're looking at bleeding, and I'm talking about bleeding when you floss, it's not just going to bleed all automatically. It means it's bleeding upon stimulation. Those are two things you can look for to say, yeah, I've got gum disease. And if you still have bleeding after a deep cleaning, then you still have gum disease. You do. And then that's one of the articles that we've written, the article that was referred to that somebody out west was lecturing on. Yeah. If you still have bleeding, you still have gum disease, get it treated and get it treated correctly. If that means referral to a periodontist, that's fine. Just don't live with gum tissue bleeding because it's indicative of a deeper problem, and that just means we can't get to it. But the endoscope allows us to get to it. Sometimes, we'll have you spit in a cup and send out the bacterial sample to a laboratory to find out what that bacteria is. Perhaps we need an antibiotic. But it's just a matter of doing those things that are necessary to be able to take care of the problem. But bleeding is the number one thing, Kerry.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, I want to save a minute because I want to recap some events coming up, but real quickly, I wanted to do two things. If somebody has been told they have hopeless teeth or bone loss, I kind of want to ask you about that. And secondly, just to have people know how they can get in touch with your office, because you have a program called Solid Bite Gives Back that actually benefits helping seniors as a charity, but really benefits the patient coming in. So if we could cover those, and then I'll hit a couple of upcoming events, that'd be awesome.
Okay, the answer is hopeless teeth are only in the eyes of the dentist, not in the eyes of the patient. If the dentist decides it's hopeless and you feel that the tooth feels pretty good, I'm talking about strictly from a periodontal disease standpoint. If your mouth is full of decay, that's difficult for us to control. But if it's periodontal disease, you've been told it's hopeless, and you're still chewing on the tooth, go see a periodontist. Go see a good periodontist and make sure that it's treated. And by the way, there's some periodontists who would still extract those teeth, will say, hey, let's give it a good shot. And for the most part, we can get the area healed. So come on over and make an appointment with us. 321-259-8000. And, or if you're listening to this tonight, just go to solidbite.com. You can make an online appointment.
Oh, neat. Yeah, and ask for and talk to them about the Solid Bite Gives Back, and a great thing that you can do to get involved and benefit helping seniors, benefit yourself, and really get some good answers. So thank you, Dr. Lee Sheldon. And remember, tomorrow at 11 at the Senior Resource Center, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard, both Dr. Lee Sheldon and Dr. Chris Nagliera with Brevard Endodontics is going to be our speakers on a not so fast on implants kind of talk. It's free, and it's just immediately follows our 10 a.m. free knowledge college session with banker Jackie Erickson talking about senior finances and banking safety. So that's Thursday. Basically, block out your morning, come out and enjoy some great snacks, get great information, maybe go home with a door prize. Also on Friday, I wanted to remind you that our second Friday Senior Tech Talk happens. That's 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. right back at Joe's Senior Resource Center. Bree Prentice, who is a millennial and just loves helping seniors make use of the technology that everybody expects us all to be able to do, everything from making your doctor appointments and checking in on your smartphone and all those kind of things, and do it safely. That's what she's going to be talking about. Senior Tech Talks is free, but again, we ask if you'll just give us a call and RSVP either for tomorrow's sessions or for Friday's Senior Tech Talk, 1 p.m. to 2:30. That will be helpful because then we know a little bit how to plan for snacks and things like that for you. So again, that number to call for that is 321 473-7770. And we sure do look forward to seeing you at Joe's Senior Resource Center for that as well. And then I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that a week from Friday, on November 21st, we are doing our next edition of Scam Jam. It's a program we do together with our friends at ARP with the objective of keeping seniors safe from scams. And that's going to be taking place at Addington Place of Titusville. Their RSVPs are absolutely required because the class can only seat 50 people. And if you remember the last Scam Jam we did, we actually had more folks show up than we were supposed to, and it became standing room only. People are vitally interested in staying safe from these scams, especially these crazy ones that are coming up with AI technology. So again, if you call 321-473-7770, you'll speak to Karen Warnland or one of our great volunteers, and just tell them you want to RSVP for this, because it's, again, everything that we're doing on these is free for you, but we need to know you're coming so we can plan and make sure we hold the space out. Incidentally, that same afternoon, Friday, November 21st, with or without appointment, you are invited to our shred event, that's easy for me to say, Addington Place of Titusville. It immediately follows the Scam Jam, and it's an opportunity for you to collect up anything that you want to safely and securely dispose of, because ARP is bringing out a shred truck, and that way you don't even have to get out of your car. They'll come to your car, take the stuff, put it right in the shred truck. You will see it being shredded right on site, and know that you're staying safe on that. That's another free service. So we're so happy to be able to serve this community, and thank you for 15 years of helping seniors. That's the time for today's show. We'll see you right back here next Wednesday on 90.3 FM WEJF. Have a great week till then.